Hey there, and happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for making the time to catch today's replay. In the spirit of Valentine's Day this week, I wanted to talk a little bit about love and whether you could say that you're in love with your message and whether you really need to be or not. So as you're watching the replay, if you've got any questions, drop those in the comments and I will come back and answer every single one. Hey, Jonita, thank you so much for joining me live. I'm so glad you're here. This week, we are talking about this question. Again, Valentine's Day is tomorrow. And the question is, are you in love with your message and do you need to be? For those of you who don't know me or don't know me well, my name is Carrie Price. I'm a brand messaging coach, helping ambitious service-based business owners find and own the words to stand out, be heard, and make your message roar. Now, you guys might feel like this is a little bit of a leap, or maybe you already have some opinions on whether you think you're in love with your message or not. In fact, I got an email response. I had emailed my list to let them know about today's topic. And one woman responded back to me and said, I saw the subject line of your email, which was, are you in love with your message? And she said, to be honest, I don't even know. So what does loving your message have to do with anything? And do you really need to love it? I actually have two opinions on this that are in conflict with each other. But in the spirit of love, I'm going to focus on what it takes to fall in love with your message. Oh, Janita, sorry, my mother-in-law's name is Danita, so that's where that came from. 18th year of marriage for me, whose birthday's tomorrow. Yeah, will be 18 years in April for us. And so let's just talk a little bit about what love has to do with it. Now, I said I've got two sort of conflicting opinions on whether you need to love your message or not. Your brand in general and the things that you do to put in place for your business that are strategic, there's a part of me that does not believe you need to love it. What you need to do when you're determining what to do for your brand, messaging or visual, is does it work for you? You don't always have to love it, but I am going to talk to you about how you can fall in love with your message, because I do believe that if you find the thing that you can fall in love with, and it may surprise you, the characteristics that I'm going to share with you and what kind of love I'm talking about. But I do believe that when you love it, you'll shout it from the rooftops even louder. But just in full transparency, there definitely is a part of me that, especially when I was doing done for you brand development for clients, if it works, if it speaks to their ideal client, right? If it's relatable, one of a kind, actionable, reliable, then because it's a strategic element of your business. Maybe that's good enough and that you can learn to love it over time. But let's talk today about how you can sort of speed through that. How can you really get to being in love with your message? A lot of people in business and online, they talk about do what feels good for your business. If it feels good, if that's what you want to do, that's what you should run with. And I'm not 100% on board with that, because just doing what feels good is the difference between, maybe being in that relationship that's like a fun fling versus what will be your lifelong soulmate. Janita, you want to love your messaging? Yeah, I want you to love it too. Okay, so let me just take a step back and let me share a little bit with you about my relationship with my husband. Like I said, we've been married. It'll be 18 years in April. And so I think I know a thing or two about being in love and staying committed in my relationship. So before I tell you about my husband, let me tell you a little bit about what my relationships look like before I met my husband. I actually was in two long-term relationships. Like, my number of boyfriends is probably low. I didn't get married until I was 28, but I was in two relationships prior to meeting my husband that were both more than 4 years long. So in high school, I was a senior in high school. I met a guy at church. We were doing a musical at the church together. Like he was, oh, I guess I was a junior and he was a senior at the time when we first met, and totally just like gaga over the guy, right? We ended up going to college together. In fact, I didn't go away to college. I went to a college that was about an hour away from home because we both wanted to go to the same college, right? Have the college experience together. And we dated for 4 years. We actually got engaged. Whole nother story. I got engaged when I was 18. And I really wanted to make that relationship work. I was in love with the idea of being in love. And he's a super nice guy. Like we peripherally stay in touch. Like I think he's a fantastic guy. We just weren't the right fit for each other. And we broke up our junior year in college, and it was awful and terrible. And about a year later, I met a guy at work, and I previously, and still to this day, don't really love the idea of dating people that I work with, but at the time I was working for the California Relay Center, which is the call center when a deaf person wants to speak to a hearing person. And so, the deaf person types on their machine, we would read it to the hearing person, and everything the hearing person said, we would type back to the deaf person. And he was an interpreter at the call center for one of the deaf supervisors. And that relationship, again, was like 4 years long. That one, I tried really hard to make that work. Like we were just like good friends at first. He wasn't really looking for anything, but I was interested in dating him. And I'll be honest, kind of wiggled my way into his life. His parents loved me. My parents loved him. We ended up dating. But that relationship, while it was 4 years long, I often say I was in that relationship 2 years too long. Because, I just knew we weren't the right fit for each other, right? It was fun. Our families got along. Like, we had big family gatherings. My family loved his family, and, all this stuff. Like, all this, like, peripheral stuff was fun and exciting. But we just weren't the right fit for each other. In fact, I knew, when you're not the right, you're in a relationship you shouldn't be in when his mother calls you to say, I think my son is too good for you and you really should leave him. Like, I'm still in touch with his parents. In fact, his parents came to my wedding to my husband, who was not their son. So, right? Like you try so hard to make it work and it's not the right thing. And you don't have the right foundation to build a relationship from. All the things that feel good are there, but then there's also a lot of other things. I was way less confident as an individual and as a human, as a woman in those relationships. So, okay. So, I have always been in love with the idea of being in love. I knew I wanted to be married. My parents have been married for a whole lot of years. Like they're still happily married. And, when I, met my husband, this was in 1999. Ancient, I know, so long ago. We actually met online when online dating wasn't as popular or normal or accepted as it is now, right? In fact, it was a little bit scary. I didn't tell very many people that I was doing online dating. I was still a little embarrassed by that, maybe. My sister always knew because anytime I went on a date, I always let her know where I was going. And I always had that emergency out call, right? About 30 minutes to an hour into the date, she would call and be like, does there need to be an emergency? Or are you good? Right? So I had this whole thing down. But when I met my husband, we met online and we had been emailing and, conversing for a little bit. And when we decided to meet for our first date, we went out to dinner and we sat there in this restaurant. I think we met at about 7:00. I think we had 7:00 reservations. And we just talked and laughed and talked and laughed and talked and laughed. And the next thing I knew, the restaurant was empty. The music that they were playing had stopped, and the wait staff was just kind of like standing around. Basically, the restaurant was closed and we didn't even realize. Like we had eaten dinner. They'd cleared the table. They were basically waiting for us to leave. And I don't know why they didn't kick us out, but they didn't. But it's like we were in a bubble. And we came out of the bubble and we were like, oh, I think the restaurant's closed. I think we need to go. And we kind of a whirlwind romance. Because to be honest, we were married 9 months later. No, I wasn't pregnant. It just happened to be 9 months later. We were married. Now, the thing about my husband, and I love him. I mean, I love him with everything that I am. But I'll be honest with you. When I told my parents that we were, basically, my parents didn't meet him until we were engaged. That was crazy. But they didn't meet him. We were already engaged because we were engaged within a month. Like, very fast connection that we had. But I want to talk to you about what was different about that relationship. So, but first of all, I'll be honest with you, like family, friends, or other people, their thoughts, and they didn't share this with me until later, but their thoughts were that he wasn't my usual type, right? My husband's not tall. I always dated tall guys for some reason. He's like my same height. In fact, I think I used to be taller. Well, this is an ongoing argument in my marriage, but he's not tall. He is definitely more of an introvert. And I used to date really extroverted guys. Like, I've a very outgoing, like do, go kind of guys, right? My husband is not that guy. So there were a lot of things about my husband that people were like, huh, that's interesting. That's not Carrie's usual type. But let me tell you why he is my perfect match. Because maybe he wasn't flashy like some of the other guys I was drawn to in the past. And no, he's not an extrovert. But let me tell you something. This man is rock solid. I even made notes this morning of some of the parts of our story, because it's a long story and I don't want to bore you with all of it, but some of the parts of our story that I think are really important that teared me up a little bit because, hey, Connie, so good to see you. Because it was the difference between being in a relationship that felt fun, that felt like I had to work so hard to make it want to work, versus being in a relationship where I'm not saying that our marriage is all fun. In fact, we've been through some really crappy stuff together. But when I think back to some of these other relationships, those things that we've been through would have tore us apart, whereas it only made my husband and I stronger and closer. One of the things that I've always admired about him, he's just so thoughtful. Being an introvert, I think, helps him do that. And he's an only child. I'm the oldest of just two, but I'm an older, the oldest sibling. And there's personality differences that come with that. But we had even at one point written guiding principles for our marriage, like what we believed in about marriage, the things that we would live by, different than vows, right? But like these were the guiding principles of what was going to anchor our marriage. He hands down is my biggest cheerleader, unwavering support for anything that I want to do. In fact, probably pushes me even more than more things than I want to do. When I decided I was ready to go full time in this business, I wavered for a couple weeks. He, like, the moment we talked about it, he's like, Carrie, this is the universe saying it's time, like, go do it. We're going to be fine. Like, and every day he was telling me, like, go do it. We're going to be fine. Even when it's bumpy and, the money wasn't flowing the way that we would like it to flow. He never once said, maybe it's time to give up and go back to a job. To this day, he's like, I'll sell my car if I have to before you give up on doing this. Like, unwavering support. We've owned a business together. And let me tell you, if you've never run a business with your husband, like full time, we had a full service branding agency 15 years ago. If you've never run a business full time where that is your sole source of income, first of all, so that by itself is stress enough. Like neither one of us had side jobs. Like this was it. And every personality clash you could have comes out, like that would break up most marriages. It only made us stronger. We've been through a major health crisis together, and seriously, he was my rock through that. I have family and friends. I have a whole community around me, but I would not have made it through what was one of the darkest times in my life without him by my side. And I fall in love with him more and more every day. But I'm going to be really honest with you. There are some days we probably don't like each other. Like, we're people, right? You live together. By the way, we're that couple that we're homebodies, and we love just like hanging out in the same room, even if we're not doing the same thing together. Like, we really, really love being together. But there are some days where you're just like, I'm not sure I like you today, but you know that you're in it for the long haul, right? And so when it's hard, when you don't like it, you still know it's the right thing, and that you're in it for the long haul, right? And that you love it. The key for us is we value the same things. What we have works for us, and we do whatever it takes. But I do really believe it comes down to we value the same things. I shared with you. In fact, we haven't actually looked at this in a long time. I'm going to have to go dig it up. But we wrote the guiding principles for our marriage. Like, we fundamentally have the same goals and visions for what it means to be in a marriage, knowing that means, when you're together with somebody for 18 years, from the time that I was 28 and I'm going to be 46 this year, you change a lot, right? Going through your 30s and then into your 40s, you change a lot as people. And in some ways we've changed in the same way, and in some ways we've changed in different ways. But because we've got this guiding principle, these shared values, that's what helps us stay in love with each other and do the work, right? Okay, now some of you might be wondering what all of that has to do with messaging. And Janita says, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I hope, thank you for letting me share. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. I always get a little extra ooey gooey around Valentine's Day. And Janita says, relationships that help us grow to be the truest, true me. Yeah, that's what you want, right? So here's the thing. When you are working on developing your message, which is the foundation, this is the thing that's going to be rock solid for you in your business through the good times and the bad. It's going to be your guiding principle. It's going to be your beacon, the thing that helps you stay on track. The stronger you develop that, like, I know a lot of people who admire that we have guiding principles in our marriage, that we actually wrote them down. And for those first few years in our marriage, when it's the hardest to stay true to that, right? You're like just trying to figure out how to navigate life with this person that you've committed to being by your side. Like, we used to review them very regularly. I think now they're just so ingrained for us, and we're so committed in a way like that neither one of us would ever now think of not being together. But we had that thing that guided us, that helped us, that reminded us why we're doing this. And you need to know what you really want. So, those relationships I had before meeting my husband, again, both long-term. I was engaged once before. I don't think I knew what I really wanted, or maybe if I'm honest with myself, what I really wanted just wasn't deep enough. It was pretty surface level, right? I wanted somebody that when you're young, I think you're just attracted to different things. Like, physical attraction is first. And I think my husband's very handsome, but he's not the same. Like I said, he's not that tall guy that I was drawn to before, right? You want a more fun and more excitement. When you get a little bit older, or for the thing that you know is going to be longer, you got to have deeper stuff than that. You need deeper stuff in your message. You need more than just the surface level. Yes, everybody wants to attract their ideal client. And, a lot of people look at their ideal client avatar. It's not enough. That's not deep enough. That's not going to hold you and anchor you and support you like having your whole messaging foundation will. And getting that fully developed and put it in writing, just like we had guiding principles for our marriage. You want that guiding principle in your business, and your messaging foundation does that. It guides everything that you do in your business. You need to know what's going to be important. for the long haul, right? Because there's going to be some days that you're going to want to waver, or you think like, ugh, maybe this isn't working for me. Should I abandon it and move on? And you might in your message, just like you would with relationships, right? For me, marriage is like, there's a different level of commitment though, right? So when I know that I'm really committed to my message, there may be some days that I worry, is it enough? But if I'm anchored back into why I'm in it, who it's for, like really understanding my ideal client, how I show up, what I want to be known for, those things are a rock solid anchor for me, right? And they can be for you too. Sarah says, I'm there today. Sarah, where are you today? Are you feeling like you have the rock solid, or are you feeling questioning? Like maybe you're not sure this is where you want to be, and how do you shift? Because I'll tell you, you may not always love your message. Like there may be some days, and let me tell you where it comes up. You're going to get comparisonitis. You're going to see somebody else that looks like they're just like breaking out, or you've just noticed them for the first time. And you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, they're flashier or they're cooler, what they've got, like that just sounds neater. And it's going to make you question whether your message is the right message. If you've developed it, if you've invested the time to develop the foundation, you start to do that less and less. Even when I started out in the coaching aspect of brand messaging, I watched what other people do in my space, and I'm like, oh, they maybe they seem like they have it together a little bit better than me, or, oh, that was kind of clever. Why didn't I think of that? And right. And you get there. Let me tell you, I don't think that anymore. I've been doing this now full time for about 1.5 years now, and I am so solid and confident and in love with my message. My eyes don't stray. I can appreciate other people's really great message. Just like I point out to my husband all the time, like, oh, look at that really attractive woman, right? Like, oh, she's pretty or whatever, because there's no threat there, right? There's no threat to me when I see somebody else really owning their message and really putting that out there. I love connecting with people who do messaging, because I think more people need to focus on that. And I'm not the right person for everybody, and I don't want to attract everybody. So I love being connected with other people that do this, because if someone's not the right fit for me to work with them, messaging is so important. I'd rather you find the person that can help you. And if I can help give you a referral to do that, great. So I'm no longer like tempted to change. I'm no longer, we all question. I don't want to say I never question, but I'm so confident in my message now, so in love with it. And it's hard work to stay in love, just like it's hard work to stay married for 18 years, because you've got to be willing to work through the tough stuff, right? That's what you need with your message. That's how you fall in love with it. It's not because it's fun and flashy. It's not because, oh, like I whipped that up and that sounds great and I'm going to run with that and I'm going to stay in love with that forever. That's not how it works, right? Could you stumble on it? Sure. It'd be rare. And I would, I want you to find that success in your message any way you can. But I guarantee you it takes more work than that. And when you find the time to make sure that you know what's important to you, what do you value, so that you can attract the people to your business because they value similar things, that's when you have a message that you will love and that you will stay in love with. One of my clients, I posted promoting this Facebook Live over on Instagram, and she commented that she's so in love with her message now because of the work we did together. And I can guarantee you, she wasn't saying that before we worked together. She and I had known each other for a while before finally working together. And every time we met or talked or sort of reconnected, she shared with me how frustrated she was and she wasn't making traction, and we need to work together someday. And that went on for months and months, and she was probably unhappy for much longer than even before the first time we met. But she did the hard work, and she's completely rebranded, even like her business name and her graphics, like everything's rebranded around her new message. And she is just killing it. And she's so in love with her message now. That's what I want for you. I want you to be able to be in love with your message like it's a marriage, because you want to find the thing that you might shift and change, right? But you're going to stay committed to that because it's the right thing and you invested the time and energy to make sure it's the right thing. So I'm just sort of looking at my notes. Yeah, so that you'll fall in love with your message, even when some days you don't think you like it, because it's the right thing. It's the values that you want to portray. It's the things that you believe in. It's what's important to you and what's important to your clients, your ideal clients, right? That's what makes your message roar. It's relatable to your ideal clients, but it's based on your values and what makes you unique. It's one of a kind so that you truly stand out in the market, and you really will worry less and less over time. I won't say it ever goes away, but you'll worry less and less over time about comparing yourself to others. You'll be able to look at your competition or meet somebody who does what you do and not feel threatened by it, because you're so anchored and grounded in what you do, and you know you show up with your one of a kind way. There's only one you. And you'll have the foundation in your message that's truly actionable, that like guides you, supports you. It is your rock solid, by your side, no matter what life throws at you, foundation, right? And it's going to help you get through all of that. And that's what will allow you to show up reliably as an expert, to be the one that people want to work with when it's their time to work on that problem. That's what it will feel like when you fall in love with your message. Hey, Michelle. Hey, no problem. I'm actually getting close to wrapping up. So if you want to catch the replay, it'll be up here in just a moment. Janita says, Carrie, the more I connect with my message, I see more of what I want to share the same day. And I question to that thinking, is the universe telling me that that's already taken and that I should go more deep with my message? So, Janita, I am a firm believer in going deep. Focus in all areas, like own your thing. Own your specific market, own what it is you do for them, own your one-of-a-kind way of talking about it, speaking about it. There's only one you. There is competition, and that's not a bad thing. It means there's a market for what you do. It's your responsibility, though, just like it's mine, to make sure that we show up with a one-of-a-kind point of view and a one-of-a-kind way of explaining it. And when you own that, yeah, you're going to see that other people talk about the same topics that you talk about. But that's just because you're in that space, right? Your ideal clients may not encounter any of those people, or they might. So again, your job is to be able to go deep, really fully flesh it out and own it. I talk about a lot of the same things that other people talk about. It will always come back to messaging. It will always come back to making your message roar and what that stands for, because I believe that wholeheartedly. When you develop your messaging foundation, it allows you to show up as an expert instantly. I've shared this with you guys on other live streams before too, but I can show up in a brand new group, and I'm not kidding you guys, 2 days, and I post once a day. In 2 days of posts, which is 2 posts if you're paying attention, people started seeing me as an expert. They start remembering me. They start following me and seeking me out. That's your responsibility. That's what your message can give you, though. You've got to show up with a one-of-a-kind message that instantly sets you apart from everybody else who's talking about that. Okay? When you do that, then you just are seen as an expert so much more quickly. So yes, go deeper. Hey, Debbie, so good to see you. Debbie says clarity of purpose is so important. I love your passion and purpose. Thank you for demonstrating what you teach. Thank you, Debbie. I really appreciate that. Yeah, you've got to be passionate about what you do because you guys, like I was sharing with you about my marriage. I love my husband. We've been together almost 18 years. There are days we probably don't like each other. But you've got to know why you're still in it together. Same thing with your message. There are going to be days that you doubt and you question and you're not sure. You got to know why you're in it. You've got to do the deep work. You've got to be passionate about what it is you're doing to be able to survive the tough stuff. Because there's tough stuff, right? Like every day there's tough stuff. It's the comparisonitis of seeing other people. It's the frustration of putting stuff out there and not getting results. It's the not getting enough consistent clients. It's just the doubting, like, why would anybody pay me to do what I do, right? We're thrown with tough stuff at us every single day. So really do the deep work on what is going to be that rock solid foundation for you that you can build from, that is going to guide you through everything. You will fall in love with it. If you're not sure where to start with that, I have a freebie of 4 things that you can start doing today to stand out and make your message roar. So if you'd like to grab that, you can go to carrieprice.com/4things. Let's see, I have that here. carrieprice.com/4things. And there are 4 things that you can start doing right now to make your message roar. That's scratching the surface still. So you've got to do the deep work. And if you want to know what that looks like, reach out and let's chat sometime. All right. So thank you for letting me share with you a little bit more personal, sharing inside a little bit of my marriage. But in the spirit of Valentine's Day, which is tomorrow, I want you to be surrounded by love in your life and in your business. I want you to really love your message. So if you don't love it yet, and again, I shared at the top of the live, I have actually a little bit of a conflicting thought on that. Part of me, there's a part of me that doesn't think you need to always like it, right? If it's working for you, but you can learn to fall in love with it when it's the right thing. Okay. Janita says, thanks. This was great. I'm so glad. Thank you. Connie says, thank you. It was great. Thank you guys so much for joining me live. If you're watching the replay, please comment and let me know what questions that you have. If you think this would be helpful for anybody else, I would love if you would share it. Also, come and pop inside the messaging den, which is my free Facebook group where I can continue to support you and love you and support you in the development of finding your message. Just go to themessagingden.com or search for the Messaging Den right here on Facebook, and I will see you there. I'll also be back here next week, same time, same channel, with next week's messaging mini class. So until then, have a wonderful day. Go out there and make your message roar. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.